Another episode of Three Deep South, college football podcast brought to you from the great state of Arkansas. I'm Mason. That's Justin. Today we're going to be kind of going over the games from Week 6. I won't lie, this is probably the weakest week we've had since Week 1 as far as big games, but it still deserves its flowers. Still another week of college football. I got to quit bouncing my leg. I'm bouncing the camera. Um, and then we're going to go over our top 10, our own personal top 10s. They might surprise you a little bit. They definitely won't be like the AP, at least mine isn't. Um,
No,
and then we'll end the show after that. But Justin, how was your week so far? I'm getting some stuff tidied up here, and then we can start.
man, it's not been too bad. You can kind of so I played golf last weekend. I usually play golf every weekend on Fridays. That's my weekend. I usually don't work Fridays. So I played golf and then I came home Saturday and watched college football, grilled a little bit, and then Sunday I mowed the yard. Or no, I didn't mow the yard Sunday. Sorry, watched NFL, just kind of hung around the house, didn't really do much. Monday I came home after work and mowed the yard, and it's starting to feel like fall, man, and I really like it. Like you smell people burning leaves and like wood, and like you got that light wind blowing, and it seems like it's even though it's kind of warm during the day, it's really cooling down like around 6:30, 7 o'clock, and it just kind of gives you that like you almost need to put a hoodie on, but you don't need to yet. And it just feels like that early fall, man. And I'm really digging it. The week's been great. It hasn't been hot here in Arkansas. The wind's been blowing a little bit, so I can't complain. I mean, really, we have college football. It sucks it's already week 6, which is crazy to me. But like every day, I can't complain because it's like, damn, my Wednesday sucked, but we have college football on Saturday, or we have college football on Friday. I guess the only thing that's better is when Maction comes into play, and it seems like you have football every day during the week.
Yeah, well, let's kind of get into the schedule. So um, tomorrow, like you said, they start playing on Fridays now. It's just a few games on Friday nights, Friday afternoons. Washington goes on the road to BYU or not Washington. West Virginia goes on the road to BYU. That's kind of the biggest game of the slate on Friday. This is a game that BYU is heavily favored. BYU should win. Um, but the spread is 19 and a half. I haven't really got to watch BYU yet this year, but depending on kind of what you think about Rich Rod and West Virginia, that could be a game that you could get some money on at 19 and a half. Didn't they beat Pitt earlier in the year, and they've kind of been a little competitive. They could sneak up on this BYU team and not win by any stretch, but kind of keep it close in that early
Yeah,
Friday game.
I mean, name wise, that's the biggest game. You know what I mean? All the other games are just South Florida plays, but they're favored by like 28 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely, I like Fridays just because that's where you get like, you might get like a 9-10 overtime game between like Western Kentucky and Delaware. So like I always stay in tune with the Friday night games. I'll click through, kind of just keep up to date. But like you're not going to look at any of these games and be like, I have to be home at 6 o'clock to make sure I watch Western Kentucky and Delaware, or I got to stay up super late so I can watch Colorado State versus San Diego State. Like you're not going to do that, but it might be a game that you wake up on Saturday morning and you're watching the pre sports center to the college football game day, and you notice that New Mexico and San Jose State are, they went into 5 overtimes and a quarterback threw for 900 yards or something absolutely crazy. So I always stay flipping through the channels on those games. There's not a game that really catches my eye because we've had great college football up to this point. So there hasn't been a week where I just focus on one of those New Mexico's or San Jose States. But I mean, it's college football. So don't miss a game if you don't have to.
Right. Well, and last week you saw Virginia upset Florida State in that Friday night game. So there
Exactly.
has been some interesting things that have happened. But let's kind of get into the big games. The Saturday, obviously, it's what everyone's really looking forward to. First things first. Now, this is a game that every year people have said this, and every year they have been wrong. Georgia should beat the brakes off Kentucky. They should.
Yep.
Uh, And the last 2 years, Kentucky has made that game something worth watching. It's the 11 a.m. game. Kentucky does have to go on the road. Um, but like going into this game, Georgia's kind of coming off that big emotional loss to Alabama, and it's just been a game that's kind of been that way, like being close like that the whole time. So what I'm saying is Georgia right now is favored by 20 and a half points. Now, if you're a risky better or kind of someone that follows like patterns of what has happened in years past, this is a game that you're taking the Kentucky spread. I personally don't like that. I think Georgia is probably disappointed, and Kirby is really good about finding ways that the media has slighted his team, and they normally respond. So I'm gonna say Georgia 20 and a half. I'm gonna take that bet if I had to bet on this game. What do you kind of think going into it?
I Man, it's so hard because I don't know because I haven't really watched too much of Kentucky. I know they gave Ole Miss kind of a game if you look at the box score, but then it kind of wasn't a game if you watched it. Um, so I don't really know what Kentucky is. I know over the last 3 years it's kind of been the same way, and then they play this Georgia game and it's always close. I think Georgia's super fraudulent. They don't pressure the quarterback at all. They get zero pressures. They don't seem like they can really push the ball down the field like big. I just don't trust Gunnar Stockton is what I'm getting at. And I don't know if Kentucky goes out and gets up on them by 10 to 14 points. Now the chances of that happen are like less than 1%. But if it happens, is Georgia a good enough team to claw their way back, kind of like they used to be, where their defense is what they rode on and their run game was great. And, they had a quarterback enough to get them back into games if they were down. Like, I don't know if this doesn't feel like the same Georgia of 2021, 2022, even into 2023. It's just not the same. Their defense isn't the same. Mike Bobo has a horrible offensive problem. It doesn't seem like they can run the ball very well. And it doesn't seem like they push the ball down the field. So, I mean, I don't think Kentucky's going to win, but I would personally probably take Kentucky with the points because it's going to be a very lackluster environment just because it's 11 a.m. It's not like it's a night game. And this is a game that most people probably spend all their money on going to the Alabama game. So I don't think the crowd is going to be as rowdy as, what they need it to be. And I know Kirby Smart's good at, ramping their team up, but I don't know how much you can ramp your team up for Kentucky. You know what I mean? I'm not betting on it. If I had to bet on it, I would almost say I think Kentucky covers the spread personally.
Yeah, and real quickly, I think Zach Calzada might be the worst quarterback in Power Four.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just don't, I don't think they have any chance. Let's kind of talk about this other 11 a.m. game, the one I'll probably be keeping a closer eye on, probably watching. Iowa State goes on the road to Cincinnati. Now, if you only watched Cincinnati week one, they lost kind of it was a lackluster game. They almost came back and beat Nebraska.
Yeah.
But ever since, Cincinnati's been undefeated. They've won all 3 games. They're coming off a bye week, and at home they're favored against undefeated Iowa State by 1.5. I don't know. I mean, I think Iowa State will win this game. So by default, I would take the Iowa State money line, especially plus odds. I feel like the better team, the better quarterback, the better coach. But I mean, a home environment. Cincinnati's been like just this like slow, just bad team ever since they got into the Big 12. Is this maybe a game that Cincinnati's favored by Vegas. I mean, does Cincinnati win this game and then kind of turn the tables on like who they are as a program? I mean, what's going on with this spread?
You know what this spread reminds me of? And I know like this game is not I don't think this game that we're talking about is gonna be anywhere close to that. But it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, Illinois was going to Indiana and Indiana was favored by like 6.5 points. And people are like, why? That makes no sense. Illinois is a better ranked team. They're a better team, blah, blah, blah. And then Indiana just dog walks them. Now, I'm not saying this game is going to be like that, but Vegas wins money. So if Vegas is seeing something, because I'm with you, Mason. I don't see in any world how Cincinnati should be favored over Iowa State. Personally, I like it doesn't make any sense to me. I think Rocco Beck is one of the better quarterbacks, not just in the Big 12, but in the nation. So I don't understand how Cincinnati's favored, but obviously there's something there. I would stay away from this game. If anything, I would just take Iowa State to cover the points. Pretty much at that point, it's like, well, because I wouldn't take Iowa State to win because my luck, Iowa State would, you know, well, I guess if they won by 1 point, but I would
It
just
don't
take
matter.
them
They
to,
could win by half a point. They're
yeah,
covering on that.
yeah. So, like, I would just take Indiana. I would just take Iowa State to cover. Because if here's my thing, if Cincinnati does win, I think they're only like it would be like a 1 point win. Like something crazy happens and they miss a field goal or something. Like I don't think they're gonna go out and just beat Iowa State. I think Iowa State's too well coached. Rocco Beck is too good of a quarterback, and their offense is high powered enough to where like I don't think they're gonna deal with too many problems with Cincinnati.
Okay, let's go to the next one. This one's an 11 a.m. game on ESPN Plus. Going into the season, this looked like a really big game. In fact, I believe whenever we went over the Big 12, I listed this as one of like the
Yeah,
games to kind of look out for. Kansas State goes on the road to Baylor. Now, Kansas State's obviously been very disappointing. Um, Baylor, they lost that game to Auburn, and they lost to TCU. So Baylor's not necessarily disappointing, but they're just kind of staying alive, staying afloat right now. The spread right now is Baylor 6.5, total 61.5. And the plus odds, if you took Kansas State, were 190. I think going into this game, I really don't think Kansas State has a chance because so far Sawyer Robertson to me has looked like the most consistent and like high powered quarterback in the most high powered passing game in the country so far this season. And I don't think Kansas State has any answers for that. So far, Kansas State has not been effective in moving the football. They also haven't been effective in stopping anyone. So I think going into this game, Sawyer Robertson, Baylor, I think they light them up, and I think Baylor wins this game by more than 6.5 points. What do you kind
yeah.
of think?
I'm
What's
the
going to
same exact
happen?
way. Yeah, I think the same way. I think Baylor. I think they're like 1 year away. I don't know what year their quarterback is. I think he's a senior. Um, I feel like they're kind of doing exactly what I thought they were going to do. I said that I thought they were going to be a sleeper team that could really upset some people's, going through the year. I think they're good enough to give you problems. And I think we were both wrong on Kansas State. We both thought Kansas State was going to be towards the top of the conference. Um, I know I had them at like 2 or 3. So, um, and they're just completely dog shit right now. Avery Johnson is probably the most overrated quarterback I've ever seen in my life. I mean, even last year, like he was very lackluster last year. I don't think he didn't do anything to me that was special. He had potential, but like he wasn't like putting it on the field, if that makes sense to me, anyways. So I'm kind of with you. I just think Baylor is too high powered, and Kansas State is not good enough to even. I mean, I could see Baylor winning by double digits, 10 to like that 20 range, honestly.
And then we do have a couple of good games at 2:30. Let's kind of talk about my sleeper game of the day. This is the one that I think has implications going down the road. I think it's between two teams that maybe you didn't expect. Ranked Virginia, I'm going to say that again. Ranked Virginia goes on the road to Louisville, and they play the Cardinals at 2:30. Right now, the spread is Louisville 6.5. I like that. I like that spread for Virginia, but I do think Louisville is going to win this game. I do like Chandler Morris. I thought they played a really good game last week. They moved the ball well against Florida State, but they lost to NC State, so there's obvious holes on this team, right? And what Louisville and I can't think of his name. I said his name a million times in the offseason. Their head coach, whatever his name is, doesn't matter. It does matter. Sorry, but I can't remember it. But what they've done is they normally play really good defense. They control the game and they keep the offenses off the field whenever they are, in control. Whenever they're playing their best football, that's what they kind of do. Miller Moss so far this season, he hasn't, been good enough to necessarily be on like the national perspective, like 86 at 131, so he's a little over 50%, 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So not great, but the running back has 268 yards, 3 touchdowns, and it's just kind of going to be a slow grind type of game. I think Virginia coming off that huge win for them, they stormed the field, emotion. Now they got to go on the road to Louisville against a tough football team. I do like Louisville in this game. I think Louisville's going to win. I don't think they cover the spread though. What do you kind of think going into this
I
one?
think I think Louisville wins as well for a lot of the same reasons you do. Um, when a team has a big emotional win like that, like Virginia, they haven't had a win like that in a while. I don't think. Um,
No,
that's
they
going
haven't.
to
They've been terrible.
yeah, it's that takes a lot out of you, and I don't think the players are going to be able to bounce back from that. I think Louisville wins, but I think they cover the spread. I could see them winning from like that 7 to 10 range, maybe up to 14. I think Virginia kind of. I think they just got ranked because they beat Florida State. If you want me to be honest, like I know it was a big win, but they weren't. And I know they're only 24th, but it wasn't like they went in there to Florida State and just like dog walked them. It wasn't even at Florida State. It was a home game against Florida State. They went into double overtime, and it was more Florida State giving that win to them more than they won, if that makes sense. I don't feel like they outdominated Florida State. I don't feel like they really did anything to deserve that ranking. It's just like, hey, we're going to rank them because they beat Florida State. And I mean, I get it to an extent, but I just don't think that it's like I don't know. I just don't think they should have been ranked personally. Like I think it was kind of like a oh good job here. You haven't been ranked in forever, and now we're going to try to make you relevant.
Well, and to me, this game is kind of like if Virginia was a team like let's put Virginia in Ole Miss's shoes, right? And let's
Yeah,
say it's a team that's had success, they have a proven coach, like they've been here. They've
yeah,
won big games, and they've went on the road after winning those big games. Um,
exactly.
I would have more trust in Virginia in that situation. I
Bingo.
don't have any trust in Virginia. Virginia is new
Nope.
to this situation. All their
Yeah,
players are new. Their coaching staff is all new to this situation, and I think it sets up to be disappointing for Virginia. So I am
that's what
taking
I
Louisville.
mean. I'm the same exact way. Like I just like if it was like you said, like if it was an Alabama or I mean an Ole Miss or I don't even
Illinois,
want to
Indiana,
Illinois,
teams that have
somebody
done
that
this.
you know like what they are. I mean, you just seen what Illinois did, and that's a completely different spectrum, and they lost. But like, if you take a team like that where you know the head coach and the head coach is proven, and the whole, it just like with this, I just feel like it's going to be a letdown spot, and I feel like it's going to be like, yeah, we got high on Virginia, but they're the same old Virginia.
Let's talk about another big 2:30 game. This one isn't big necessarily for the reason of like I think this says more about the loser if it's Texas. Okay, so Texas number 9. Don't know how they have that ranking. If
No,
I my rankings, Texas is nowhere near the top 10.
nope.
AP voters hate voting against what they voted for coming into the season. It makes no sense. But nonetheless, number 9 Texas goes on the road to Florida. 2:30 ESPN. Right now the spread is 4.5. Now DJ Lagway isn't in boot right now, so I'm just gonna say that put that out there. DJ Lagway is in a boot, but Florida did this last year where Florida started out terrible. Billy Napier is going to get fired. Bill Napier this, Billy Napier that. And then they stayed the course. They didn't let go of the rope. And then at the end of the year, they were like, 8-4. And you're like, whoa, this team was terrible. And then, they went and they beat Ole Miss. Played a really close game with Georgia late in the year. Uh, let's say Texas goes in and wins, okay? Good for you. You beat a 1-3 Florida team, right? Let's say Texas goes in and loses, though, and Arch Manning doesn't have a great game, and it's a terrible. It's kind of like the Ohio State game where it's just a slugfest, defensive, like no huge, crazy, scoring runs for either team. It's just a slow cut type of death for Texas. I mean, what is the national media going to be like? Because this is a team that a lot of people have predicted to win the national championship. This is a team that a lot of people predicted to win the SEC, and this is kind of like a really terrible spot for them. I mean, Florida's going to be packed for this game. I mean, the Florida fans might be ready to string Billy Napier up to a wagon and dragging him down the road, but they're going to be there for this game. I'm going to take Texas. I'm going to take Texas in this game, but just what if? What if Florida wins?
I think okay, so here's what I'm going to say about the whole situation. If Texas goes in and beats Florida, and let's just say they beat Florida by 10 points, and it's like, let's say it's 35-25. Arch Manning has a decent day. Everybody's going to act like this was just some monumental win. Everybody's going to act like, oh, yeah, well, I know Florida's not good, but it's still an SEC team. So, like, no, Florida is not a good football team at all. I hate it when people, like, they're not good. DJ Lagway went against LSU and threw 5 interceptions. Like, their defense isn't, I mean, I don't even want to say their defense isn't bad. Like, I don't know what Florida is, and they were one of my big teams going into the season. I thought DJ Lagway was going to be a crazy quarterback this year, and he's been so, like, he's not even in the realm. He's not even the best quarterback in the SEC. He's not even, I wouldn't even put him in the top 10 quarterbacks in the SEC.
He's not even in the top 3 in the state of Florida right now.
Exactly. Bingo. He might not be 4th. USF's quarterback's kind of dirty.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't know about UCF's current situation, but if UCF has a good quarterback,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, but here's what you have to look at too, like we were talking about earlier. Like, what is Vegas doing? With as bad as Florida is, Vegas only has Texas favored by 4.5 points. Mm-hmm. So I know DJ Lagway's in a boot, but he's been in a boot for like half of his life, it seems like. He's always in a boot. And Florida can run the ball. That's the thing that a lot of people miss out on. Like against LSU, they ran the ball for like 5 yards, 6 yards, 7 yards a carry, but they only ran it 10 times. I think with DJ Lagway being in a boot, I think Florida is going to really lean into that run game. I kind of projected it at the beginning of the season because I brought up, and you probably remember this, Mason, what if Texas had 2 losses going into the Red River shootout, and Oklahoma was better. I was really high on Oklahoma. I'm going to take Florida's points. I think they're going to cover the point spread. I want to say they're going to win out, but the last time I projected an upset, I had Tulane beating Ole Miss, and that was not anywhere close to being true. So I'm not going to project the upset. I just think, like, DJ Lagway's due for one, and he's a good enough athlete and a good enough quarterback for everybody. Like, he could go out and have 200 yards, 3 touchdowns against Florida or against Texas, and they might rush for 260 yards or something crazy. And people be like, see, this is what we were talking about at the beginning of the season. Florida can be that. But it's like, yeah, they're not, though. And I could see Texas just coming out sluggish on the defense or on the offensive side of the ball. And, I mean, I'm not going to project Florida to win, but I think they cover the point spread. And I could see a world where they win.
Well, and I think reality for Texas is they haven't played a big game in a month. I mean, they had that big, huge game going into the season against Ohio State, and it didn't go the way they wanted, and they lost. and then they had a slow game against San Jose, and then they had another slow game against UTEP, and they did have a high scoring affair last week. But I think this is kind of like prove it to yourself, because going into the season and just on like 24/7 and on three, the recruiting rankings and the talent composition of teams, Florida and Texas are both high on those lists. Um, so I do think it's not a question of talent for necessarily Florida. I don't think they have the right guy leading that talent. But this was
Yeah.
a team last year that was the same way. And then whenever they turned it on and they played well, it was like they were a scary team. Um, I do think Texas is going to win this game just because I haven't seen any reason to think that Florida can do anything right. I don't think they can win a game right now. And we'll see about Texas. We'll see about Texas because if Arch Manning has a great game, there is going to be that national buzz again for him.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's going to quickly be put up or shut up time next week because they play Oklahoma. Um, let's move to another game that's outside of maybe the national perspective. We're going to talk about this game, another game, and then we'll talk about Vanderbilt, Alabama. This game, 2:30 NBC. Boise State goes on the road to Notre Dame. Obviously, last week you saw Notre Dame put up a lot of points. Jeremiah Love played great. CJ Carr looked like a great quarterback against a terrible team. And the last thing you really saw of Boise was a bad loss on the road to USF. I do think Notre Dame is going to win. I don't like the 20.5. I don't think Boise has anything that is going to just like wow you or amaze you, but I don't like 20.5 for Notre Dame. I don't know. Unless, I mean, okay. Now, if last week was them really taking a step forward and CJ Carr hitting his stride and Jeremiah Love is back, okay, I love the 20.5. Actually, I changed my bet. I like the 20.5. I think Notre Dame beats them by 28. Actually, now that I'm really talking myself through this, I wasn't decided on this game. Yeah, I think I'm taking the 20.5 on Notre Dame's side.
I yeah, I would agree. I think it's going to be close to 28.5. I mean, because I think Notre Dame, how do I want to say this without being disrespectful? Because I really don't mean to be. Last week was sexual. Last week
Yeah.
was one of the craziest, like, video game type like games that I've seen in a while. And obviously, you know that too because the whole defensive staff got fired and the head coach. And so it's not a surprise. It just sucks to talk about. Like, what I'm getting at is that's what DJ Clark can be. Now, can he do that 2 weeks in a row? That's the question. I know he did it against Arkansas. They kind of set him up for that, and Arkansas's back end isn't like the greatest. I'm not going to say that they're anywhere comparable to Boise State, but I mean, I think Boise's a good enough team, and Notre Dame's coming off that big win, and I know they're kind of coaching on the edge right now because if they lose again, they're definitely out. I think they're already out, but I think Boise State's going to come in and give them a little bit more of a run than what you say it was 20.5.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have to deal with the night game. It's kind of like that. Yes, it's on NBC, and yes, it's at 2:30, but it's kind of that sleeper spot. There's going to be other people watching other things. And I don't feel like big season ticket holders are going to just prioritize this game. So I could see it being a sleepy start for Notre Dame. I still think they win by like 17, but I don't think they're going to cover, the 21, 22, 23 and a half.
Let's kind of get into. I'll let you take the lead on this one. I watched Washington last week. I
Yeah,
haven't seen Maryland play football.
they're like the
5
carbon copy. Yeah, they're like the carbon copy of each other.
So let's kind of
My
introduce this game first. Washington 3-1, coming off that game against Ohio State. They
Yep.
lost. Goes on the road to undefeated Maryland. 2:30. Spread right now is Washington 6.5. Justin, take it away.
Yeah, thank you. I don't really preview games. I'm not the lead taker, so I just start talking. You know what I mean? I think it's a big game on the Big Ten standpoint because Maryland hasn't been good in a while. They got a freshman quarterback that's kind of been balling out. Washington, I think Washington, personally, to me, is a top 20 team. I think they're a lot like an Ole Miss. Um, and I just, this is where it comes to me to where this is where it starts like the biasy comes in. You know what I mean? Pretty much every team in the SEC that's undefeated at this point is ranked, besides maybe one, but I think they're all ranked.
I think they're all ranked.
Yeah, and there might be some one-loss teams where their one loss is to like a Texas or a Georgia or whatever, and they're still even ranked. But then you get like Tennessee, prime example. But Washington kind of has that same type of loss, and they're not even considered to be in the top 25. So like
who
these,
does Washington beat though?
I mean, like the
that's
same
my
people.
question.
Yeah, they're like the same people as Tennessee, really. I mean, at this point in the season, nobody's played anybody. They've played Washington State. Washington has. Okay, Tennessee played who? Syracuse.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and then everybody else is just dog water. At this point in the season, week 5, it's not like you can compare, like, unless we already talked about one of their matchups, you really can't compare. Like, do you want to compare Syracuse to Washington State? I mean, you can, but I don't know how much of a difference they are. I'm not going to say Syracuse is going to go in and beat Washington State by like 40.
My whole point with that was I don't necessarily think it's a malicious bias necessarily. It's the fact that Washington plays at such a late time that we're going off AP voting right now. AP voting is just whoever.
Yeah.
And AP voters take whatever they had in the preseason and they vote on it. They vote on based, okay, well, like I don't think Texas is a top 10 team right now. But Ohio State beating Texas, they're vaulting Ohio State up there. Just because of that win. Ohio State could have lost a game by now, and they would still be a top 5 team because they beat Texas type of deal. And I think Washington plays at a late slate most of the time. And last week there was so many big games on that they didn't watch them play Ohio State. People don't know about Washington.
No, and that's where I kind of get tired of the preseason rankings, and it happens in the Big Ten too. I'll tell you another one that's not in my top 10. I don't think Penn State's a top 10 team. Personally, I think they might be 12. I think they might be 13 or 14, but I don't think they're a top 10 team. What I don't like about these preseason rankings is all these teams that are lower level teams. I'm just going to use Maryland because we're talking about them. They're 5-0. How many teams do they have to beat before they become ranked? You know what I mean? Because let's just say they beat Washington. Okay, they beat Washington. Well, they just beat an unranked team, so that doesn't matter. So they're not ranked again. And then let's say they go all the way to week 7, and then they play Ohio State. They're still not ranked, but Ohio State comes in and beats them by 24, 25 points. It's like, we'll see, they're not supposed to be ranked anyways. It's like, well, no, they're playing the best of the conference. So it's like, yeah, there might be a little bit of a gap, but how much of a gap is it between number 1 and number 20 is my whole point. And that's why I don't like the preseason rankings for a lot of the reasons that you said. Texas should not be number 9, but they are because they have a 1-score loss to Ohio State, which is the number 1 team, and then they've beat everybody else. It doesn't matter how bad it looks. They've beat everybody else. So with this game specifically, I feel like this could have big implications on the Big Ten because I personally feel like Washington's really good. I've obviously kind of kept up with them through the season because we played them last week, and it was an early game for us. I haven't really kept up with Maryland. I know they're really good on the offensive side of the ball, and I know they have a pretty decent defense. Their quarterback's a freshman, so you always got to look for those freshman mistakes, but they're playing Washington at home, which helps. So I think I'm going to favor Washington in this game just because I think their quarterback is extremely electric. I really do. I think he's up there with Ole Miss's quarterback. I don't think he's quite as good as Taylor Green, just because the height, the stuff like that. I think he throws the ball a little bit better. I don't think he's nearly as nimble and as athletic. But I put him in that realm. He's like 6'1", 6'2". I think he might be a little shorter, actually. I think he's like 5'10", 5'11". But he's one of those kind of twitch monsters, a lot like a Kyler Murray. I feel like it's going to be a fun game to watch. Obviously, there's other games on at that time, But if those other games get out of hand, I would definitely recommend going and watching this game because it's going to be two quarterback. I could see this. I could see this game. The over unders 53.5. I could see it going over because both of these teams are really good on the offensive side of the ball.
What do you kind of think like the cross country travel is going to go is going to affect Washington? Because last year we saw a far superior Miami team go all the way to Cal and almost lose
Yeah.
that game. How do you think that maybe plays into this game?
I think if you want me to be honest, because coaches talk, especially after they play one another, like Sam Pittman and Lane Kiffin might have talked after the game about, hey, what do you do to do this or what do you do to do that? Just simple stuff, not anything that's going to make it to where, oh crap, I told him something that might, bite my butt at the end of the season. But they talk. The reason I bring that up is because Ohio State played Washington last week. Last year, when Ohio State traveled to Oregon, they went the day before. They went on Friday, and then this year Ryan Day talked about how they were going a day early. I could see Washington kind of doing the same thing, going a day early, getting ahead on that time slot. I think it helps them because it is a 2:30 game. So you think about it, a 2:30 game, they're just waking up like it's an 11 o'clock game back home, roughly.
Right.
So I think that really helps. I don't know if the Big Ten, well, I guess the Big Ten don't really have any, like they don't have any say on when the time slots are. I think it would be a lot worse for Washington if it was a morning game or if it was a night game. But I think since it's kind of stuffed in that 2:30 slot, I think it's going to be all right. But I think it's definitely something to look into going through the season. Look into that if, a Maryland might go to USC and it be an 11 o'clock kick. It's like, well, that's a little, Maryland's having to do something. Or say, like last week, USC came to Illinois, and played at 11 o'clock. That's an early kick. That's an early wake-up time for them. And obviously, Illinois won. I'm not saying that has anything to do with it. But like you said, that cross-country travel has really become an issue over the last 2 years. And the only one that's won, like Oregon kind of figured it out. And then I guess you could say Ohio State figured it out this year, maybe, but they lost last year to Oregon at Oregon. So I think it's just something that all coaches are going to kind of do what they want to do and see if it works and see if it doesn't. I think you're really going to see what programs master it, if that's what I'm getting at.
Well, and I mean, they've been doing it in the NFL for so long that you have statistics on
Mm-hmm.
that. But for college, it definitely is a different ordeal. And I mean, you saw it last year. Penn State went on the road and almost lost to USC, and then it was like they had this random burst of energy in the third quarter, and they came back and won that game.
Yeah,
But yeah, I just think it'll be an interesting statistic to look at maybe a year from now.
for
Let's
sure.
talk about the next big one. Oh, this is the one we're going to talk about next. Vanderbilt goes to Bryant Denny. They go to T-Town to play the Alabama Crimson Tide. Alabama's coming off this huge win on the road at Georgia. Kind of sets up the same way it did last year, where Alabama wins this big game against Georgia, and then the next week they play Vanderbilt. The biggest difference is last year Vanderbilt lost to Georgia State early in the year, and they're working on their stadium, and Saban talks all this crap about how terrible Vanderbilt's home field advantage is. Sleepy Alabama walks in there and gets beat. They storm the field. They take the goalpost down Broadway in Nashville all the way to the Cumberland River. Diego Pavia, that's whenever the Diego Pavia thing started. This year, Vanderbilt's 5-0. This year, Vanderbilt has thoroughly beaten pretty much everyone. I think they had a no. I'm thinking of someone else. Vanderbilt's ranked 16th in the country, and College Game Day is going to T-Town for this game. This is a whole different atmosphere. I think something that's going to play into Alabama's favor. I'm going to say the spread first. Spread's 10.5 Alabama's way. But I think something that's going to play into Alabama's favor is they already played Tommy Castellanos. And I do think Diego Pavia is different in a sense of it's more of a designed run with Diego Pavia. Tommy Castellanos is kind of the wild, you never know. But Vanderbilt does move the ball very well with Diego Pavia and all the options and all the RPOs and just letting him kind of control the game. I do think going into this game, though, Alabama has a lot to prove still. You still saw Alabama lose focus week one and not give effort, and they got beat like a drum in front of a national audience. I think this is a different Alabama team. I think this is a different Kalen DeBoer team. I think they have a better quarterback. I think that they have just. I think Jam Miller returning was huge last week. I think Jam Miller being in this game tomorrow or Saturday is going to be huge. I like Alabama, and I like the Alabama spread. I'm taking the Crimson Tide to kind of defend their honor and shut Diego Pavia up, hopefully. What do you kind of think? I know you have a different opinion on this one.
No, I do, but it's so hard because like what I've heard is like I'm not gonna lie. I've just heard this from other people that are very high up in podcasting, like Josh Pate. I'm not gonna act like my sources have told me. No, I just watched Josh Pate's podcast, and he said that he went to the game last week, and as soon as Alabama got done, they celebrated for 10 or 15 minutes, and it kind of worked its way around the locker room, like let's get ready for Vanderbilt. Talking about Vanderbilt. Let's take it to Vanderbilt. Let's kick Vanderbilt's ass. Stuff like that. So it's hard because I want to take Vanderbilt because Alabama has a run defense problem. They have. All year they have. Georgia rushed for like 200-something yards on them. And I know maybe Alabama's defense is on the field a lot, but at some point it's like, learn how to stop the run, and Vanderbilt likes to run the ball. Pavia is a really good deep ball thrower too. I mean, a lot of people talk about his legs. He has a really high percent of deep ball completions. He can actually throw the ball a little bit. A lot of people compare him to Baker Mayfield. I think that's a little bit of a stretch. But a lot of people get lost in like, oh, he just runs the ball. He's kind of like a Haynes King. Like, he just runs the ball. No, he can actually throw it a little bit too. I'm going to pick Alabama, but I think Vanderbilt covers the spread. And if I'm watching that game and Vanderbilt wins, I'm not going to be surprised. If you have an extra dollar in your pocket, put it on Vanderbilt. I truly think Vanderbilt's going to win, but I'm not willing to die on that hill. Because me and you talk so much trash on Pavia at the beginning of the season, I can't just outright pick them to beat Alabama 2 years in a row. But I think they cover the spread, and I wouldn't be surprised if they won, personally.
Well, I hope you're wrong, or my parlay will lose. Let's go to the next kind of decent one. Obviously, we're going to talk about the big one of the day, the one that I think decides kind of the ACC, especially for Florida State. But we're going to talk about that one later. This is one that kind of caught my eye just off of the jump. As soon as I look at the schedule, Michigan State goes on the road to Nebraska. Now, I'm pretty sure Nebraska had a bye week last week. The week before, the last time we saw them, they lost at home to Michigan in a game that I said, when are you going to do it? When are you going to take the step? And they fell. Coming off a bye week, I think this game is going to say a lot. Last time we saw Michigan State, they lost to USC. If any of these teams, Michigan State, Nebraska, those kind of wanting to be where Indiana kind of was last year, where you're not upper echelon, but you're trying to get to where you're just good enough to make it, you have to win these games. So far, Nebraska's offense to me has been disappointing. Their defense has been somewhat surprising. I didn't expect them to be able to hold anyone. I thought it was going to be kind of like a shootout every game if they were going to win, or they were going to have to run the ball a lot to kind of control games to where their defense wasn't on the field as much. Their defense has been more impressive to me, but their offense has taken somewhat of a step back. Dylan Raiola has just not looked
He's ass.
He just hasn't looked great to me so far. They are favored by 11.5. I think they do win this game, and I'm hoping for the sake of Matt Rule And I do like Dylan Raiola. I'm hoping they cover that 11.5. I don't know that it'll happen. I don't even want to predict that it'll happen. I'm steering clear of Nebraska. But what do you think?
I think they I think they win the game, but I don't think they cover. Dylan Raiola is a liability. He's not good. He's just not like if he would focus half his attention on being a better quarterback versus being the second coming of Patrick Mahomes, I think he would be okay. But he's not good. He doesn't push the ball down the field. He has a I would say like in college football, he has one of the most interception worthy throw percentages out of anybody. He just doesn't. I don't know what it is about him, man. He just pisses me off. Honestly, he just kind of acts like he's better than everybody, and he's not even that good. I mean, really, and I think he's the detriment to that team. I feel like if you take, I don't know, if you take, I mean, even Michigan State's quarterback and put him on Nebraska, I think they win more games. If you take Rockdo Beck and put him on Nebraska, they win more games. If you take uh, Mississippi State's quarterback and put him on Nebraska, I think they win more games. I just think he's a lot like Arch Manning. Everybody thought he was going to be some crazy all-star, five-star, all everything, and they've both kind of crapped the bed this year. I think Michigan State has a good team. I think they're still a year away. I think if they get to 7 or 8 wins, they'll be lucky, but I think they're going to test teams like a Nebraska. I think Nebraska's defense is good. I just don't think their offense is very good. And I think it all goes down to Dylan Raiola, and it sucks because I think Matt Rule is a great coach. It's just he missed on, one recruit, and he kind of set himself up really depending on that recruit.
So are you saying that you're cheering for Sparty in this game though?
Yeah, I just like their team better. I like their quarterback. Childs, I think is his name. I get him and Marcel Reed like complete like they're like the same quarterback.
Well, and he had to have
Aiden Childs, I
improved
think is
because
his name.
last year they lost a lot of games because of how turnover prone he was and how he
Yeah,
was unable to throw the ball in a lot of games. So, I mean, just the fact that they went on the road and almost won that game against USC says a lot to me. But I do think Nebraska is just ahead of them as a program right
I agree.
now. Let's kind of get into. Hmm, let's talk about this one, and then we'll get into. We'll let Justin go into his Ohio State breakdown. Texas Tech, ranked 11, spent the most money you've ever could imagine on a football team. They go on the road to undefeated Houston, led by Connor Weigman. This is a team that they beat Colorado at home. They've won all the games that they were supposed to win, and now they're sitting at 4-0, and they got a huge opportunity at home, 6 o'clock on ESPN to take down what everyone is assuming is a giant in the Big 12. Right now, the spread's at 11.5. I've watched both of these teams play, and I can't lie. I don't see Texas Tech losing in the conference. I think they're too talented. They just squeeze the life out of these Big 12 teams. But a night, if there was a night that they're going to just falter on the road, it would have to be this one for me. They cannot be as focused for this one because Houston coming into the year didn't have any expectations. They've been terrible. They've changed coaches. But they did bring in Connor Weigman. The offense is looking all better. Connor Weigman's able to run the ball. He's healthy. Finally, he spent a lot of time at Texas A&M, and he would show flashes, then he would get hurt. I think if there's a game that they can fall in the Big 12, I think it's this one. Or when I say fall, I don't mean lose. I think they can lose to some other teams. I mean like get upset. And I think it's this one. I think Houston has a good home field advantage for what it is. It's at night. This one means everything to Houston. This is the big one. But I am picking Texas Tech. I'm picking Texas Tech to cover. I'm going to be watching this one. I'm going to be keeping an eye on it. What do you kind of think?
I'm in the same boat. I think that here's the scariest part that people say about teams that brought in a lot of transfers is, are they going to mesh? Are they going to mesh in time to make a run to the playoffs? and Texas Tech looks like they've meshed better than anybody. They brought in their backup quarterback against who did they play? And they brought up their backup quarterback. It was Utah. They brought it. Their backup quarterback came in against Utah, and they put up like 21 points in the fourth quarter. And Utah, I'm not saying they're Utah of old, but they're still a good team. You can't rag on Utah and just act like they're not good. I think Texas A&M or Texas Tech, sorry, this game could really make me sound like a dumbass, but I have Texas A&M like almost pushing to be in my top 5, maybe in my top 5. Honestly,
Texas
if you
Tech.
want me, Texas Tech, yeah, sorry, they lead the country in too many profiles, and I don't want to hear like, oh, who have they played? Most people haven't played anybody at this point in the season.
I mean, they did go on the road to Utah
Yeah,
and blow
yeah.
the door off of them.
But that's most people's argument now. Out if you're not in the Big Ten or you're not in the SEC, it's like, well, yeah, I mean they're at the top of most statistics, but like who have they played? It's like, dude, nobody's played anybody. I mean, you can give it to Ole Miss. They've played 2 conference games, and there's some other teams that have played a few teams, but like most people have at least had 3 cupcake games. So it's like, don't hit me with the who have they played. If they're playing that good already and they're a 75% transfer team, I'm thinking of they're only going to get better. I think they play Houston, and I think they really solidify themselves as like, yeah, we're different this year, and we're a different team in this conference. We're not the same as everybody else. We could go to the Big Ten and compete. We could go to the SEC and compete because we brought in all their talent, and we meshed it all together. We're well coached. I think Texas Tech covers, and I could see it not getting ugly, but I could see it being like, yeah, the spread shouldn't have been that close. I could see them winning by 17, 21 points.
Trying to let my phone start working again here. I don't know. This new ESPN app, man, it's good until it isn't, and then it just is slow. The next one I wanted to talk about. This one's going to be Justin's. He's going to love this right here. All right. 3-1 Minnesota, the Golden Gophers, PJ Fleck.
Yeah.
They go on the road to Columbus, Ohio to play the number 1 team in the country, the Ohio State Buckeyes. And listen to this part. This is what I was talking about. Justin don't care about the game. He don't care about the game. This is what he cares about. 6:30 p.m. NBC Peacock.
Thank
spread
you.
23.5. Justin,
Finally.
What are you kind of thinking going into this one? I mean, now we
I'm
can talk
glad.
about the game here in a sec. What do you think this means for Ohio State to get this night game?
I think I don't know, man. I'm about to cry thinking about it. You know why? Because they're going to put this dumbass game on at night, and we're still going to play fucking Penn State at noon. I guarantee you, I promise, and I'm sorry for dropping the F-bomb, but if you know the struggle that I've been through, it's annoying. It's so bad because Penn State is supposed to be our blackout game. Beginning of the season, our 2 biggest games at home were going to be Texas, and then it was going to be Penn State. Texas was already at noon. We got shafted, not just as an Ohio State fan, but as a fan in general. You got shafted to watch Ohio State play Texas at night. With the Penn State, if we play them at noon too, it's supposed to be a blackout. We've already said from the beginning of the season that Penn State's going to be a blackout. So I already know we're going to play it at noon. There's no other big games on right there. I guess the only thing that I can hope for is Penn State loses again, but I don't want that because I like, top 10 matchups. With this game being at night, I think it's great. People are going to show up because it's a night game. The good thing about it, too, that a lot of people don't realize, Ohio State's ticket prices are absolutely insane. Me and my fiance were talking about going. I really want to go to Ohio State versus Michigan. I know that sounds dumb because I want to watch them win, but I feel like it would be a disservice if the first game I went to wasn't, a Michigan game at home. But the lowest ticket prices right now are $56. So I think this place is going to be absolutely packed out. I think it's going to be rocking. This is the first conference game Ohio State's had in 2 years. That's at night. I feel
like what the last one was? That was at night?
Was it
Minnesota.
this?
It was
Yeah.
Minnesota on Thursday night.
Yeah, that's what I mean, bro. You can't tell me we're not getting absolutely screwballed over here. And that was C.J. Stroud's first start. So it's 2021. Yeah, I remember that game.
Yeah. That's the last one I
So
can remember, at least. That I don't know if that was actually the last one. I just
I
thought it was
think I
funny
mean
that
I don't. I know they didn't have one last year, not a conference game. They might have played. No, I don't think that was a home game. Yeah, you got to be close. It was roughly around that time. But I think they've put a lot of improvements into the stadium. So I feel like it's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be a big game for Ohio State fans. It's not going to be that close. Here's my thing that I want a lot of people to understand. And I want people to step back and not look at me as like an Ohio State fan. I know I'm an Ohio State fan, but I want you to take a step back and just listen to what I'm saying. Ohio State's defense is suffocating. I would put them in the realm or have the potential to be close. I'm not comparing them to be close to like the 2022, 2021 Georgia. Their linebackers are ridiculous. Arville Reese and Stunny Styles are crazy. The back end is crazy. Our defensive line is ridiculous. One of our defensive ends, Caden Curry, has more sacks than the whole entire Georgia's front line. He has 5.5. Georgia's whole D line doesn't have that. Here's the other thing that people are going to argue with Ohio State. Well, their offense hasn't looked that good. Ryan Day comes from the NFL. He also knows that it's a super long season. He has came out and said that their goal this year is to slow the game down. Our offensive line has already played they've played one less game than what they did last year at this exact time, snaps wise, because we're slowing the game down. And at the end of the day, is it about how many points you put up in September, or is it about your whole team being healthy in November, December, January? Because you got to remember, when we went into the playoffs last year, we were down 3 offensive linemen. We had a makeshift offensive line. What I'm getting at is I personally think that Ohio State has the potential, as long as our coaches don't get in the way, because eventually we're going to have to air it out. I'm really anxious to see if we're going to air it out in this game, because in our 2 biggest games, we didn't air it out. You can scotch one up to it being Julian Sands' first start against Texas, huge game.
Texas has a good defense.
And Texas has a good defense. And you can chalk the other one up to Washington. It was Julian Sands' first big road game, because Washington is a tough place to play. They were on the same level as Georgia in road environments. They haven't lost at home since I think 2021, or 2022, 2023, just like Georgia. Anyways, what I'm getting at is I'm anxious to see if Ryan Day is going to open this game up. I think our offense, it could be ridiculous. We can go 31 personnel, which means we bring in 3 tight ends or 4 tight ends, but then we also have 5-star wide receivers all over the field. So it's like we can do things on the offensive side of the ball. I just want to know if we're going to. And that's what I worry about. But I'm anxious to see it. I think Minnesota's going to be a good enough test. The spread is 23.5. I don't think that's because Minnesota's a bad team. I think that's because Ohio State truly does. They're the closest thing to they're the closest thing to solidifying themselves as the number 1 team that I've seen this year, if that makes sense. And that's really me not being a fan. I think you could argue Miami, but that's whatever you choose to do personally.
My biggest fear, I guess, projecting Ohio State going forward, is they have struggled to run the ball a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
maybe that's because teams have just loaded the box, and they have to an extent, but they struggled to run the ball. And Julian Sand, outside of he hasn't wowed me yet, I guess I'll say. He's had good moments, but he hasn't wowed me. And I think not the instability, just the youth of him kind of scares me a little bit. I mean, last year with Will Howard, even in that Michigan game where you had nothing going, you still believed in a senior quarterback with all those weapons. And
Yeah.
I think Julian Salan is infinitely more talented than him. I just think to an extent, the youth might come into play later down the road. Now, I do think that they win this game and they win it huge.
Now,
I'll be excited. I'll
can
be
I
excited.
ask? Yeah. Can I ask you something, Mason? And I'm
Mhm.
not berating you at all. It's just me asking a question. What does he have to do to impress you?
Well, I just want to see. I want to see the pass game just look more fluid in a sense.
Yeah.
It almost seems like the offensive line is playing great in pass protection. He hasn't had a lot of pressure, but it almost seems there's points in the game where it kind of stalls.
I
And
feel
without
you.
the ability to run the ball so far in the season, it's led to them only scoring 20 points or how many are they? 27 against Washington. Now they were in control of that game and they didn't really have a need to push the ball down the field. I just think whenever you get later into the season, like against a Penn State, who is going to want to control the game, you're going to have to make plays down the field.
Yep.
And that's what Oregon kind of showed you in the second half of that game with their quarterback moving. And I just kind of want to see it look a little bit more clean, I guess you could say.
I agree. I
Less
totally agree.
bubbles and less slants. You know what I'm saying? Like more things
Yeah.
down the field. And you saw that at points last week. It's just I want to see it on a more consistent basis.
I totally agree. I think, and this is the last thing I'm going to say. I think that's what worries me about this team is I don't know if Ryan Day is going to get in the way because Julian saying what a lot of people don't know. I think he has the highest rated completion percentage in the nation, or he's at least top 5, maybe top 2. He's 9 for 9 on deep balls, so he can throw it down the field. I just worry that our offensive coordinators and our head coach is not opening up the offense. And I'm with you. I think eventually they're going to have to, but I don't want them to have to. I don't want them to not do it until they have to because that causes problems.
Right. Like I would like to see them open it up a little bit because in the games that they've played in that I would deem as quality competition, you saw more bubbles, flats, and slants than you did anything down the field. Now, last week he did throw a nice ball to Jeremiah Smith on that one touchdown. So, I mean, they have the ability. I just want to see it look a little bit more comfortable, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree. Run game is not good right now.
Let's talk about the biggest game of the whole day, the game with the most implications.
Yep.
This one has implications down the road in the ACC. It has implications down the road for the college football playoff potentially. Miami goes to Florida State. Right now, Miami's favored by 4.5. 6:30 ABC, big one at Doak Campbell. I'm just going to put it plainly. I think Florida State was looking ahead. I don't think Florida State's a worse team than Virginia, and I think Florida State can win this game. I'm not going to crap talk Miami because I did a lot of that already. I've already done that, and it's already burned me once. But I will say I think Florida State's offense poses a lot of problems to any defense they play. They got the Gus Malzahn offense. There's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of misdirection. There's a lot of plays to the boundary, and then that sets you up to get beat down the field. I think Tommy Castellanos is a great mobile quarterback. He makes great decisions. Even in duress last week, he was still willing Florida State in that game. They wound up falling short. I think I'm going to take Florida State, but I think this is going to be a classic. I think it's going to be a classic. I like Carson Beck more this year than I did last year, obviously. Miami's defense has looked good so far. I just think this offense is going to pose a lot of problems. And then let's just face it, they got to go on the road and they got to play the most hostile environment they're going to play all year. And I think Carson Beck is going to handle that well, but I just think there's going to be a lot of momentum for Florida State in this game.
I totally agree. I think Florida State was looking ahead last week. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a low-scoring game because both defenses are really good. But I'm with you. I think Florida State wins. I think it's going to be a crazy environment, especially since it's in-state rivals. But I could also see a world, Mason, to where Carson Beck of 2024 comes in. And he struggled with big environments last year. And what big environment has he been in? I know he played Notre Dame at home, but that was a home game. Um, I think me personally, I think Florida State wins the game, and I think they really make it to where it's like, okay, yeah, Florida State losing last week was kind of a blunder. They were looking ahead, kind of like what we talked about. Um, I think they're both good teams. I think they both can make it to the playoffs, and I really think that if Georgia Tech doesn't have something to say about it, we could see both of these teams playing again at the end of the season.
I think a big problem for Miami is they haven't played a team that goes after the quarterback yet. I mean,
Yep.
Notre Dame does to an extent. They did last week, but it was more of a contain. And then Florida hasn't shown that they can do it at all. Uh,
No.
and, and I think they're going to play a Florida State team that's super aggressive. I mean, even last week they were aggressive. It just wound up burning them a little bit. Um, and I'm interested to see the development of Carson Beck against a high pressure defense. And I'm also interested to see if Florida State can get that pressure. I think if Florida State gets the pressure, they keep their offense in control. They keep Tommy Castellanos on the field, and I think Florida State will win this game. But like you said, I don't think that that's a nail on the coffin for Miami. I think Miami, as I'm going to say later, I think Miami is one of the best teams in the country. Is there any other games that you wanted to talk about? I mean, Mississippi State goes on the road to A&M. I think A&M wins that game. And then
Yeah.
that's really it as far
I
as
mean, that's pretty much the only other game. I think Texas A&M wins that game, and I don't think it's
okay.
as close as what they say it is.
Do you want to go with your top 10 first?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
All right. So obviously at one, I have Ohio State. That's my one. I'm not going to get into all this and why I put them there or anything like that. I have Ohio State at one. I have Oregon at two. I have Miami at three. Those are probably all of my three. I know I just projected Miami to lose, but up into this point, I feel like they've looked more. I feel like they've looked more complete. They manage both sides of the ball, stuff like that. At four, this is where I kind of change. I have Oklahoma at four. I have Indiana at five. I really like Indiana. I know they haven't played too many people, but for them to for them to play Illinois and beat them like they did, like they're doing everything right. Go look what they do and look where they stand up against the rest of the country in just rushing the passer, stuff like that. So I have Indiana at five. At six, I have Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M's a really good team. At seven, I have Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is a good team. I think they're a little overrated, but I could, and it's hard for me to put them that high just because I don't know, man. Their defense really worries me. I know their offense is good, but eventually they're going to get to a point to where their defense isn't good enough to stop another top offense, if that makes sense. And I don't know if their offense is a top five offense in the country. So what is that? My six? Yeah, my seven. I would have to go with Texas Tech. I really like Texas Tech. I think that what they're doing is on par with what these other teams are doing. At seven, at eight, I have Alabama. I mean, they just came off a big win. They look like a totally different team than what they were in the first week of the season. That's my seven, eighth team. Yeah, eighth team. Ninth team. This is where it's like this is where for me, like 9 to like 15, you could interchange any of them. I could see somebody wanting to put Iowa State at 9. I could see somebody wanting to, put Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Georgia Tech, Florida State, any of those teams at 9. To me, the ninth team, I mean, probably would be Georgia Tech. And it's not because it's just because it seems like no matter who they play, you can't count them out. Mm-hmm. It's like, would I favor Georgia Tech over Georgia today? Yeah, probably. if you want me to be honest. I don't think Georgia's that good. I think they're okay. I don't think they're that good. And to me, like that matters. Like you can't judge them on like, oh, they've only played so and so. Well, they can't do anything about it. They control the line of scrimmage. Hanks King is a dog. My 10th team, um, I mean, I don't think Penn State's a top 10 team. I don't think Florida's a top 10 team. I don't think Georgia's a top 10 team. I mean, I guess this is where it's so hard for me to pick. I guess my top 10 team would be Florida State, just because I feel like they just looked ahead. You can't hold that against them. I feel like if you put them up against LSU, I would favor Florida State. If you put them up against Georgia, I would favor Florida State. If you put them up against Texas, I'm favoring Florida State. If you put them up against Penn State, I'm favoring Florida State. So it's like at that point, if I'm going to favor them over all those teams, why would I just have them below because they just lost a game last week against an unranked opponent? It's like, to me, I'm going to favor the team that I think would win the game.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I guess I'll just go into mine.
Yeah, I know we're probably complete. I know that I had some in there that people are like, you're a dumbass. There's no way they're in the top 10.
It was just
Not
like,
you.
We just talk so much now. It's like, I'm just going through it now. Top 10, I got the number one team in the country to me right now, the most impressive win. I got Oregon, number one.
Yeah.
I was really impressed with what they did last week, going on the road and winning that game with a young team. I think the ceiling doesn't exist for that team. Number two, I do have Ohio State. They've just looked like a team with a really good defense. Julian Sands improved every week. I do want to see the run game get a little better. Number three, I have Miami. Miami beating Florida the way they did, beating Notre Dame the way they did. I think undeniable they're one of the best teams in the country. Number four, I have Alabama. I think that loss week one on the road to my right now number 12 team in the country in Florida State. I think if they were played on a neutral field, I think I'd favor Alabama in that game. Alabama's looked vastly improved. Ty Simpson's looked vastly improved. Number five, I have Ole Miss. Their defense did look shaky against Arkansas, but ever since, Tulane has a pretty good offense. They shut Tulane down, and they gave a terrible Garrett Nussmeier, terrible Brian Kelly, all kinds of fits. I have them as the number 5 team in the country. Number 6, I have Oklahoma. Now, this is with John Mateer. Obviously, they don't have him this week, but they hopefully have him by the Red River rivalry. Red River shootout. It's not the rivalry. It's the shootout. Number 7, I have Indiana. So far, Indiana has given me a lot of reasons to believe that Kurt Cignetti's done it again. I think this team's better than they were last year, and I think they're going to keep doing that going forward. Number 8, I have Georgia. I don't think Georgia has done anything to really, make me think they're not one of the best teams in the country. That win against Tennessee really proved that to me. They went on the road. They beat a decent Tennessee team whenever they were down. Gunnar Stockton did make some plays in that game, and I think that they are going to keep improving. Number 9, I have Texas Tech. That win against Utah on the road said a lot to me. I think going forward they could jump my list a lot. And number 10, I have Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M, they went on the road to beat Notre Dame. That was a good win. They beat Auburn last week. That's a good win. And just for the sake of where I have this game, at 11, I had Vanderbilt. 11 at 4. I think it's a big one for me personally. So far, they're not same old Vandy. So far, they've proven everyone wrong. Diego Pavia has backed up everything he said. They're not a 6-win team like I initially predicted, and I think they have a real shot in this game against Alabama. I do think Alabama beats them, though. That's my top 10. I'm probably gonna have to figure out a way to get better at technology so that I can make a graphic for us, so that we have something, so y'all can easily see it. It's not just based on our words. Right now, all I have is Apple Notes. So that's all I got.
That's pretty much it too. It's hard because I want people to understand because I don't care. You can talk shit about my top 10 all you want to. Mine and Mason's top 10 are going to be different because we're two different football fans and we see different things. You would be dumb to think that bias doesn't come into effect. It does. Even with people in the AP voters, bias comes into effect. I favor Ohio State over Oregon because that's my team. Does Oregon have a better win than Ohio State as of right now? Yeah. But guess what? I think they're so close. I'm going to take my favorite team over
Right.
Oregon. And there's other things that go into that, but that's pretty much all I got. And we're going to do this top 10. We're not going to do it every week because how much is going to change from this week to next week? I like doing them probably once every 5 weeks, once every 3 weeks, and then once we get closer to the playoffs, we might change it up and do it every other week or something like that. But we
Yeah,
didn't.
we'll give our playoff seedings whenever the time comes for that. I think it's too early to really tell. Those are really just the top 10 most impressive teams to me right now. The
Yeah,
teams
that's
that have
how
the
I
biggest
am.
wins, the best resumes to me 5 weeks into the season. By the time we get to week 12, by the time we get to week 12, Miami might not be on it. Oregon might not be on it. Ole Miss
So
might
Ohio
not be on
State
it.
might not be on it. Yeah, I mean,
We don't know yet, so we'll see. That's my top 10 right now, based on who I've watched, what I've seen, the wins that they have, the resumes that they got. But that's all I got, guys. If you would like, subscribe, comment, comment us who your sleeper team has been so far. That's what I want for people watching the video to do. You can either comment on our TikTok, just any of the TikToks, just say my sleeper team is this. You can comment on the Facebook. You can comment on this YouTube video. Any way that you know to contact us. Don't if you got my phone number, don't text me. I don't want you to text me. But if you,
hey, Mason likes getting text messages on Saturdays right after the Hogs game.
yeah, that's my favorite. Don't do that. But uh, just if you have if you can find one of our social media pages, tell us what your sleeper team of the year so far has been,
Yeah.
and tell us what you're kind of looking forward to, like the biggest game, or tell us who your favorite team is. Just something. We just want to get our engagement up. We want to interact with our fans, and we really want to start having an actual fan base. So we want to thank you all again, and be sure to join us Sunday morning at 8:30. That's what time we do it. Yeah, 8:30.
Yeah, 8:30.
We'll be reacting to everything we laid out today. We'll be reacting to Sunday, and yeah, that's all I got, man. Y'all have a great weekend. Have a great Friday. If you work Friday, just put your head down, grind through it. We still have football, so.